Imagine a single building holding the sum of all human knowledge. Scrolls containing cures for diseases, forgotten inventions, maps of lands long before they're rediscovered, and records of civilizations that no longer exist. Now imagine it all vanishing in flames. I'm pretty sure you've heard whispers of this story before. The Library of Alexandria. A place that could have changed the entire trajectory of human history. But how much of it is myth and how much of it is it real? And if it truly existed, what kind of secrets did we lose forever when it was destroyed? The story begins in the Egyptian city of Alexandria, founded by Alexander the Great around 331 BC. After Alexander's death, one of his generals, Ptolemy I, took control of Egypt and built a kingdom that would become a cultural superpower. His dream was to make Alexandria not just a political capital, but the intellectual capital of the world. And so, under the rule of Ptolemy II, construction began on what we now call the Library of Alexandria. Now, it wasn't just a library in the modern sense. It was a temple to knowledge attached to the Mosaïon, a center for scholars, scientists, and philosophers. Imagine the world's brightest minds gathered in one place, sharing discoveries across cultures: Greek, Egyptian, Indian, Mesopotamian, and beyond. Legend has it, the library's collection reached up to 400,000, maybe even about 700,000 scrolls. Now, each scroll was also handwritten, the result of decades or even centuries of work. Ptolemy ordered that any ship docking in Alexandria had to surrender its manuscripts. These texts were copied, and often the originals were kept while the copies were returned. Over time, the library became the largest collection of knowledge in the ancient world. Here's where the mystery deepens. Everyone knows the library was destroyed, but nobody can agree exactly how. One of the earliest stories comes from Julius Caesar's campaign in Alexandria around 48 BC. During the fighting, Caesar reportedly set fire to ships in the harbor, and the flames spread to parts of the city, possibly reaching the library. Ancient writers like Plutarch blamed Caesar for the loss of countless texts. But was it the entire library or just a portion? Now, another theory is that the library faced multiple waves of destruction. Later, Roman emperors less interested in Greek philosophy may have neglected it. Some accounts suggest Emperor Aurelian's campaign in the 3rd century damaged it further. Then there's a theory of religious purges. By the 4th century, Christianity had become the Roman emperor's official religion. Pagan temples and institutions were often shut down or destroyed. Some historians argue that Christian mobs, seeing the museum and the library as pagan centers of learning, attacked them. And finally, there's the Muslim conquest of Egypt in the 7th century. Later sources claim Caliph Omar ordered the remaining books burned, declaring that if the writings agreed with the Quran, they were unnecessary, and if they disagreed, they were dangerous. But most modern historians doubt this account, believing it was more propaganda written centuries after the fact. So what really happened? The truth is, we don't know. The library may have been destroyed in one great fireball of tragedy. Instead, it may have withered over centuries, bit by bit, until eventually nothing was left. This is the heartbreaking part. What exactly vanished with the Library of Alexandria? Some believe the works of great civilizations we barely know today were stored there. The Babylonians, the Sumerians, the Persians, all might have had their histories copied. Imagine if we had detailed accounts of how these empires rose and fell straight from the source. Then there's science. Ancient Greek engineers like Archimedes were already inventing early forms of machines we would never see again for thousands of years. What if blueprints for steam engines or even primitive computers were in those scrolls? Medicine, too, could have been centuries ahead. Indian texts on surgery, Chinese herbal knowledge, Egyptian medical papyri. If all of this was preserved and shared, humanity might have conquered diseases far earlier. Astronomy is another. Some say ancient scholars already suspected the Earth orbited the Sun long before Copernicus. If those scrolls survived, Could the scientific revolution have come not in the 1600s, but in the 200s? The idea isn't just speculation. We know from fragments that knowledge was lost. Think of Hero of Alexandria, an inventor from the 1st century AD. He described devices that worked on steam pressure, the beginnings of engines. If more of his work survived, we might have had the Industrial Revolution probably 1500 years earlier. Here's a tantalizing possibility. Maybe not everything was destroyed. Some historians believe many scrolls were copied and sent to sister libraries such as the Library of Pergamon or smaller archives throughout Egypt. Others may still be buried in forgotten storerooms, caves, or ruins waiting to be rediscovered. In recent years, technology has offered new hope. Using multispectral imaging, researchers have been able to read texts that were charred or even erased. Projects like the can't even pronounce this, but Oxyrhynchus papyri in Egypt are recovering fragments of ancient literature once thought lost forever. AI is even being trained to reconstruct missing passages. I'm pretty sure even if one box of scrolls from the Library of Alexandria turned up, it would be the greatest archaeological discovery in history. The tragedy of the library isn't just about what we lost in the past. It's a warning about how fragile knowledge really is. Today, we live more in a digital age with information stored across servers worldwide. But even now, data can vanish. Hard drives fail, websites disappear, empires still rise and fall. In a way, we're not that different from the scholars of Alexandria, building vast archives, just hoping they'll last forever. The Library of Alexandria has been a symbol, a reminder that knowledge must be preserved, protected, and shared, because the moment we stop caring about it, we risk repeating the exact same mistake. And I'm pretty sure we can all agree losing centuries of human progress is a price too high to pay. So what do you think? Was the Library of Alexandria really the greatest tragedy of history? Or is it possible we've exaggerated its size and importance over time? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. I'd love to hear your theories. And if you're fascinated by lost knowledge just as much as I am, vanished cities, and the mysteries of the ancient world, make sure to hit that subscribe button because the next story I'm working on might just change the way you see history forever.